Good morning, and thank you for the introduction. As you already heard, my presentation I'm giving is about the regulatory aspects and correct labeling of coffee byproducts on the European food market. I would like in my presentation to explain the regulation of coffee byproducts as novel food on the European market and labeling of these products. I would like to start with the question, what are novel food? Novel food are extremely, maybe exotic origin, new, produced by new technologies or relatively new on the European market and without a history of safe food. Before placing on the market, you have to do an authorization, which you have proven that the food is safe. If you use it on the market without an approval, it's not allowed, and it's a criminal offense in Germany, for example. If you're placing on the market, you can have a ban on placing on the market or even other legal consequences. On the first picture, you can see a product from a startup in 2017 with the infusion of cherry coffee pulp and in a beverage, and it was not approved at that time. So it was banned from the Germany food market, and this leads to the end of the company. On this picture, you can see a summary of the novel food status of coffee byproducts. Spent coffee grounds and green unroasted are not novel at the European market. Cascara and coffee leaf are the only approved novel food in the European Union. And flowers and silver skin are novel and need an authorization if you want to put it on the market. I would like to start with the infusion of coffee leaf. As you have already heard, it's been a novel food, and with an implementing regulation according to the novel food regulation, it was approved in the European Union as a traditional food from a third country. Before it was approved, there was a safety assessment by the EFSA, and there were no concerns about the safety of the food. After the approval, the infusion of coffee leaves added to the annex of the so-called union list. Here you can see the annex for coffee leaves. You can see in the first column which novel food is authorized. For here, it's infusion for coffee leaf. The food category is on the second column. Only in this category you can use the food in the European Union. And then the last column, you can see labeling aspects you have to use on the label. As you can see, coffee leaves are now, first of all, it was only as an infusion on the market, and in this year it's allowed now to be used in flavored and unflavored non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverage, or in coffee extracts, instant coffee, tea, herbal and fruit infusion. Also there are more categories where you can use, but I didn't see any product of these categories on the market at the moment. There are some specifications for the tea also, like we heard before. Also you can see how you have to do it. Typical ingredients like caffeine, the microbial criteria, and maximum content of heavy metals. Now I come to the second novel food. It's dry cherry pulp and its infusion. They are also novel food, and it's also approved as a traditional food from a third country under the novel food regulation. It's also been placed in the so-called union list after the approval. You can see here it's dried cherry pulp and infusion. The categories are to use for preparation, in coffee instant products, tea, or in unflavored non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverage. And then you have the name for it, also coffee cherry pulp or cascara coffee cherry pulp. And in coffee cherry pulp, it's a special. You have to put this statement on the labeling if contains more than 150 milligrams per liter caffeine. It must be labeled as high caffeine content, not recommended for children or pregnant or breastfeeding women, in the same field of vision as the name of the food, followed by the caffeine content expressed in milligram per 100 milliliter. In the normal food regulation, in coffee and tea, you don't have to use the statement. It's very special for dried infusion of coffee cherry. There have also been some specification how to prepare it, the microbial status, the water content, the protein content, also all typical ingredients. Then there are more contents of contamination, for example, mycotoxins, heavy metal maximum content, benzapirin content, and the level of pesticides. So now I will come to the labeling, which is my main job at the moment. So the Food Information Regulation is only for prepackaged foods. Loose items don't apply to the Food Information Regulation except of the allergen labeling. But for coffee products, there are not really allergen labeling you have to put on the label, or if you do it on loose items. The mandatory particulars of coffee labeling, also there are the Article 9 of the Food Information Regulation. There are listed all the mandatory labeling aspects of which are put on the label, and I would like to start with the name of the food. The name of the food, this term refers primarily to the legal required name. Invented names or trademarks cannot replace the name. The second thing is the list of ingredients. The list of ingredients shall be headed by a suitable heading which consists the word ingredients. It shall include all the ingredients of the food in descending order of weight as recorded at the time of their use in the manufacture of the food. The next thing is the quantity of certain ingredients. The declaration of the quantity of ingredient used in the manufacture shall be required where the ingredient concerned appears, for example, in the name of the food or is essential for the characterization of the food. It may be expressed in percentage, for example, in the list of ingredients. The next point is the net quantity of the food. The net quantity of the food must be expressed in kilograms or grams. Note that according to a German regulation, the quantity must be printed in a larger minimum font size than the other information. Next point is the instruction for use. The direction for use of a food shall be written in such a manner as to enable the food to be used in an appropriate manner. The next thing is the date of minimum durability and the lot according, also the lot identification. The date of minimum durability is the date until which the food retains its specific property, such as sensory characteristics. The date is preceded by the word best before if the day is mentioned, and best before end in all other cases. This is followed by either the date itself or a reference where the date can be found on the label. If the date is given with the name, month, and year, this information is also the lot identification. Otherwise, another lot identification would be required. The next thing is the food business operator in the European Union. You have to put on the name and the address of the person whose is the one who's responsible for the labeling or who imports the food to the European Union. A nutrition declaration is necessary for some food, for example, ready-to-drink beverage. It contains the amount of energy and amounts of fats, saturates, carbohydrates, sugar, protein, and salt. The font size of this information have to be 1.2 million X height. And yeah, as I said before, the net quantity has to be 2 to 6 millimeters high in the letters. So, what is the X height? The X height is this height for the X, if you can see it, how is the determined? Normally you have to put glasses to see and measure the height, because 1 to 2 millimeters is very, very small. It's hard to read. Then I would like to say something to what for byproducts it is essential on the labeling. It's the name I said before to the Union list, like coffee cherry pulp, cascara coffee cherry pulp infusion, or infusion from coffee leaves. And the statement according to the caffeine content high of caffeine. Like I said before, it's very important in this product. And then there are other. Yes. The name of the food and the net quantity must appear in the same field of vision, and in Germany it has to be written in German, because not everybody can understand English easily. So now I have a lot of food information regulation text. Now I want to show some examples which make it easier for you to see what I'm talking about. So here you can see an example of a dry product. You can see the name, fruit infusion with cascara. You can see the net quantity in the same field of the name. You can see the list of ingredients with ingredients with a name which be at the first time. Then you have the ingredients, for example, apple pies, cascara, hibiscus in this case, and you can see the percentage of cascara because it's named in the name of the food. And then you have put a percentage of cascara in the ingredients list. You can see the preparation for tea because that's the only way you can produce a safe food. You have to put it on a tea. Then you can see the address of the business operator and best before the minimum durability. And you can see the minimum font size is 1.2 millimeters. So that's my next example. Maybe some of you tried it yesterday. I think Mr. Steger brought someone. Yes, it's a German label. You can see the name of this food. You can see the ingredients list. You can see the name of the novel food as an infusion from the coffee cherry pulp. You can see the net quantity of these ingredients. You can see the nutrition declaration with the content of sugar and carbohydrates and the energy value. You can see the food business operator. You can see the minimum durability. In German, it's called Mindestens bis. That's the German name for best before. And you can see the net quantity in the same field of vision like the name. And now I would like to end my presentation with the problems in the regulation. For coffee leaves, only the infusion is improved. In the strictest interpretation of the legal text, only the infusion may be imported in the European Union which doesn't make sense to me. Also, why should imported the leaves? Then there are the confusing names for the infusion, like dry infusion for coffee leaves and coffee cherry pulp dry infusion. We thought about what is the product, but we heard from yesterday it's possible to try the infusion, but for me the name is not very good because I don't know if the consumers are understanding what the ingredients is. Maybe it's better to call it dry extract, or it was a translation error, because most of the extracts from, for example, black tea or green tea, it called green tea extract. Also, I don't know what they should mean with dry infusion. And coffee leaves and coffee cherry pulp shall only be used to prepare beverage, even they have the potential to be used as an ingredient in other foods, for example in bread, to high up the protein content. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I like it very much, this idea, German idea, just to put aside for the label. I don't know you because you are very young and you are not wearing glasses, but the one that we are starting to wear glasses, sometimes it's very hard just to read what is this information there, and then it should be easily read it. Then I think that is, you don't think that is important, but for me, I think that is important.
Yes, we have a special class where I sit here.
Yes, and I like it also.
And I watch, it's 1.2 and
I also like your label with of your product, of the Coda Sosa, with the explanation, graphical explanation of what it is, the ingredient that you have, the main ingredient of your infusion. Because I think that is a matter, just to educate the consumers, and probably they look at later. Then don't worry about if they call cherry or coffee cherry or whatever, because probably we didn't know coffee at the beginning, and it is a product very familiar for us nowadays. Yeah. This is the time for the audience, or do you want just, Dr. Schwarz, you want just to say something else?
I just feel it shows a good sense of humor also of our European authorities. But maybe it's also wanted that it's very small printed. We were just discussing here how everything would had to be labeled as decaffeinated product, but we just said we are not trying to open that can of worms. Okay, so any other specific question? Here we go.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for this very interesting presentation. And maybe I'm wrong, but I saw somewhere that it is all what you described was only for Coffea arabica and Coffea canifera or Coffea canifera. Yes. Is it so?
Yes, Coffea liberica, coffee leaves, or something like that would be novel food.
So Liberica does not apply to all of this?
Only the first column, which Coffea arabica and Coffea canifera are at the moment approved.
Okay.
If you want to put other things, also leaves from Coffea liberica, you have to prove and start a approval thing. Also maybe it can be also traditional food, which would be easier in the approval, but you have to ask the authority, maybe with a consolation, according to normal food regulation. Maybe it's easier when for the other coffee types it's already approved. Maybe it's easier, but I don't know. That's a difficult way to approve a novel food. Not easy. You have to put all the information about toxicity and that you have a safety assessment from the EFSA. So.
And I'm not an expert in that, but if I'm not wrong, the coffee as we drink it,
yes,
I think it is for all the coffee species, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Not necessarily.
No?
Probably those 4 species that were consumed before 97, not all.
Okay. Thank you.
But I think this is why Dr. Lachenmeier yesterday was putting forward that it would make sense for all of us, for the entire coffee industry, to put forward a sort of a consortium and just say, you know what, the coffee plant, we live with it for hundreds of years. We're humans, we are greedy, we are stupid, so we certainly have tried to eat everything. We are still alive, so obviously there is nothing that is so dangerous and toxic that we couldn't already intoxicate ourselves, because with a cultivated agricultural plant, that's something different, like with an algae that you find somewhere in a deep pond in the deep sea where we've never been, or an algae that is swimming somewhere in a geyser in Iceland at 80 degrees in sulfuric acid, and then we wonder why we can't digest it. I mean, that's not a surprise, but look at the potato. When the potato came to Germany, people were first eating everything that was growing above the soil, which was not the greatest idea you can have, but they found out. So those people who tried were the ones that became fertilizer for the next potato generation, and therefore we are now a good potato nation. But anyway, I think we should really go a little bit more pragmatic and have some sort of a well, we should review the novel food regulations and just say, take out all the cultivated plants. And that would be the same as for Nagoya Protocol, to just say, it's a coffee plant. Imagine if you translate it into apple, not the computers, by the way, just the fruit. But if you would put it over and you would say, now we have an application for apple cakes, but you can only bake cakes, not make a fruit juice, and you can only use 2 types of apples. I mean, sometimes you just have to put it into clear German words. Well, I'm speaking English, that's very funny to say, but just put it clear, and then you realize how absurd the regulations actually are. In my point of view, it's a personal statement that you are just allowed to take on, copy and multiply it in social media and call your local EU representative and convince them you're never going to vote for them again if they don't put this forward. Questions? Here. Oh no, just putting down sweat. Yeah, okay.
I've got it. Thank you for your presentation. December 2021, Nestlé issued a patent based on fermented cascara, and I know that it's not only an idea because they have ongoing trials. And is that fermented cascara within the regulation, or is it the gray zone where they? I assume they have hundreds of regulatory affairs people, and they've checked, but what is your opinion on that?
In my opinion, I would accept it, because...
Probably is accepted.
Yes, probably.
I think so. If you go to the definition that we read yesterday, I think that cascara, because it's a beverage, what you are preparing, is this fermented, I think that is in...
Yeah,
I think
right.
so.
I would probably accept it, but yes. But it's...
I would ask the other
product
question.
and I see what it is, and...
If you want to get angry with Nestle, make an Article 4 consultation and ask the regulator if it's novel or not.
Yes.
And when they say it's novel, then Nestle can put away with their product, probably.
But if we are not wrong, Nestle was the one that asked for the authorization as novel food or traditional food of.
But I agree that if you do fermentation, it's always something different.
Yes, it is, but it's coming from is a beverage derived from the cascara that is accepted just to make beverage, not to make cakes.
But
Then
fermentation alone, a non-novel could get novel.
we will see. Anyway, if they can sell the product or no, this is the thing. We have to wait, but it seems that it may be acceptable in this context, I think.
Maybe.
But if we put ourselves to the moon and look down from the moon to the earth, and we ask ourselves, just on reality, how is it possible to have any cascara in the world that hasn't undergone a certain stage of fermentation? If you give me that answer, I agree to anything that the EU Commission will do. But I'm quite sure it is absolutely impossible to have an absolutely unfermented cascara in any way. That is how I would start, but I'm always a hard, let's say, partner in discussion in these kind of things.
Yes, you're completely right.
It is, they put external yeast, so I mean, it's not a yeast coming from the wild, you know, it's a Pichia cluveri yeast, so it's not really, you cannot find it, I think, in the coffee.
Yeah.
So
I understand. I would, but this is, again, just personal. I would always say, as long as it's a yeast that we have been using in food as human beings in the past 300,000 or 900,000 years, it should be okay. If it's a GMO, I would have a complete other position.
Right.
Just to also give you my position on that. So that's the question where dirt begins for me, and where reality ends. But again, I'm not an expert. I just have a strange kind of mind. That's all.
Yes, as I agree. If they use a food degree yeast that is registered and they are preparing a new beverage and they are using the cascara, I think that they should be aware that they can use it just for selling. Otherwise, they are not going to invest on that, I think.
And maybe you don't see it on the label. They can call it cascara, and I don't know in the product if it's a ready-to-drink beverage what cascara they use. Also, I see only when I'm working this one product with this label. Also, I don't know how they do it often. Also, that's, you have to ask when you have anything it might be novel. I would ask, but it is a correct label. I don't know if I would ask what's fermented steps in there. Also.
And probably they get into this confusion, no? Because there are some soft drinks that contain gas, you know, that come from cascara, and they are commercially available too. Probably they say, well, if they don't go into the detail of but they should declare that it's a fermented process and what yeast they have uses, but I don't see really the problem I see.
Difficult.
Okay, very interesting discussion. Any more questions on the audience? He has one here.
Just a short question. Very nice lecture, by the way, about the leaves. If you would like to produce or allow it as leaves from different varieties or for Arabica, Liberica, or Robusta, how are you going to differentiate them? How are you going to produce them, and how is it possible to get them here? This question will be a big problem, I think so. Is there a chance that instant products can be produced in those countries producing the coffee?
Also, I don't know.
It's the same markers like in the bean.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We see the same markers in the leaves like in the bean, so it's probably not, you can differentiate.
Okay.
Apart from if you have the whole leaf, it's quite easy, and in a mix, it's also possible with chemical analysis or DNA analysis.
DNA, yes, I think.
Exactly.
Yes, I think that this, and now is this of the volatile of the greens, but this is too much, and probably they go for the DNA. Yes, I think so. But we have to believe what they put in the label, no? It is established that you need just to declare the species, and that they put there, if you want just to go for a fraud because you have the idea that they're lying you, then you have to take the samples and just to send it to the lab just to more analysis.
But by the way, you don't have to label the species.
No.
Yes.
It's coffee leaf without anything else. Coffee leaf infusion is sufficient.
Yes, it's true.
Also, you don't.
Okay. Is it? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.